Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as requested by you all, I've made this predicted paper video for IGCSE Edexcel Maths, paper code 4 MA1. This is for 1HR. I've already posted a video for 1H, which you can access at the link above. This video is made for May-June 2026. So based on the trends that I've seen in the past paper exams, for the topics that most commonly come, the topics that skip sometimes and then come, I've compiled questions for those topics in this paper. This paper is going to be not slightly like longer than like what you usually get because we're talking about anything that has a potential of coming. So this video is going to be a bit long. And while you're solving this predicted paper, it's going to take more time because obviously there are more questions than what we usually get in the exam. But with the help of this video, you will have good preparation by the end of it, and you would have covered everything that has potential of coming in the exam. If you're someone who wants to download the document, the download link is in the description below, and see what type of questions can come in your paper 1 for Higher Maths A. So firstly, multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, addition, subtraction, all of these have very high chance of coming, like they come very repeatedly. So what you can do is, for the first step, you always have to convert your mixed number into an improper fraction. No matter what they're asking you to do, add, subtract, divide, multiply, first step is to convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. So you multiply the denominator with the whole number, and then add the result to the numerator. So 3 times 5, 15, 15 plus 1, 16. 6 times 1, 6 plus 5, 11. So when you're doing this, the denominator remains the same. What changes is the numerator. Now, when we're multiplying fractions, you can either multiply a numerator with the numerator and denominator with the denominator. Addition, subtraction, all of these have very high, or you can simplify vertically and diagonally. So we can see that 16 and 6 come in the 2 times table. So this becomes 3, this becomes 8. We cannot further simplify this. So 8 times 11 is 88, 5 times 3 is 15. Or you can simplify. Now in the calculator, if you divide 88 by 15, we're getting 5 whole number 13 over 15. So that's your answer as given the question. If they were dividing fractions, you'd keep the first fraction as it is. Like let's say I'm saying it's 1605 divided by 1106. We keep the first fraction as it is, change the division to times, and flip the second fraction. This is for division. After that, steps are exactly the same as what we did over here. And for addition and subtraction, you will always make the denominators equal. Making the denominators equal is not necessary for multiplication and division, but it is for addition and subtraction of fractions. Then factorization of a quadratic equation, then solving it. So what you can do is you see what is the coefficient of x squared and the constant. That's 1, and over here it's 9. So 1 times 9 is 9. Then you find other factors of this product. So 3 times 3 is 9, and that's it. We're going to pick that set of factors which when added or subtracted gives us the middle term, which is 8. So that's 1 and 9. So we're going to replace 8x with 9x minus x. 9 and 1 are the factors, so 9 minus 1 gives us 8. So we just replace the middle term with that. Everything else remains as it is. Now we're going to split this into 2 groups, and we're going to factor these groups separately. In the first group, we have x common. So x plus 9 goes in the bracket. In the second group, we have -1 common. So x plus 9 goes in the bracket. Whenever you see that there's nothing common, 1 is always common. So you will take 1 common. And the sign is also common with the 1. You don't miss out the sign. So now we have the same terms inside the bracket. So we take the x plus 9 bracket common, and that leaves x minus 1 in the other bracket. So this is your factorized answer. When they're asking you to factorize, you will give your answer in terms of brackets, always. Now it's saying hence solve. The word hence indicates that you have to use your answer from the previous part. So x plus 9 times x minus 1 is basically equal to 0, because this is the equation in the factorized form. So you can just replace the equation with the brackets and put equal to 0. Now, both the brackets are going to be put equal to 0 separately. And that shows that x is -9 and x is 1. So these are your values. Then highest common factor and lowest common multiple come very frequently as well. So they've given us a, which is 2 to the power of a times 3 to the power of 5 times 11 to the power of 4. B is 2 to the power of 6 times 3 times 11 to the power of 8. We have to find the HCF, highest common factor. So for HCF, what you will do is you will see which numbers are common between A and B. We can see that we have a 2 that's common. So let's highlight that. We have a 3 that's common, and 11 is also common. So all three numbers are common. So let's write that down first. 2 times 3 times 11. Now, when we talk about the highest common factor, you will always pick the smallest power for the chosen numbers. So for 2, the smallest power is 6. So we write 6 over here. Why are we doing that? 2 to the power of 8 in A can be split into 2 to the power of 6 times 2 square. We're talking about the common factor. 2 to the power of 8 cannot be common in 2 to the power of 6 because the power is bigger. So what's common is 2 to the power of 6. That's why we write the power of 6 for 2. Similarly, for 3, we have a power of 5 and 1. Obviously, 5 cannot be common because it's bigger, so we take the power of 1. Then for 11, we have 4 and 8. Again, 8 cannot be common, so we pick 4. So this is your HCF. You can leave it as it is, or you can just, rewrite it as like an entire ordinary number. It's up to you. Then find the lowest common multiple of 2A and 3B. So 2A is going to be twice of A. So 2 times 2 to the power of 8 times 3 to the power of 5 times 11 to the power of 4. So we combine the 2, so that's 2 to the power of 9, and everything else remains as it is. 3 is 3B. That's 3 times 2 to the power of 6, 3 and 11 to the power of 8. So combine the 3's now. So that's 3 squared, and everything is as it is. Now for the lowest common multiple, what you do is you take all the numbers. So we have 2, 3, and 11. 2 times 3 times 11. So in HCF, you pick the common factors. In LCM, you pick all of the numbers. So now for the powers, you will pick the highest power for each number now. For HCF, we're picking the lowest power. For LCM, we're picking the highest power. So if you look at 2, this is power of 9 and 6. So 9 is bigger, so we pick the power of 9. For 3, we have 5 and 2. 5 is bigger, so we pick the power of 5. And then 11 is 4 and 8. 8 is bigger, so we pick the power of 8. You will not combine the powers. You will not subtract the powers. You will not pick the lowest power. You will pick the highest power for LCM. For HCF, you pick the lowest power. For LCM, pick the highest power. It says give the LCM as a product of powers of its prime factors, so we will leave the answer as it is. We don't need to further simplify it because they want the answer as a product of powers of its prime factors. So this is that format. So that's how you find the LCM and HCF. Then expanding triple brackets that can easily come. So for expanding triple brackets, I always advise that you expand the first two brackets first and then go to the third bracket. So 3x times x plus 2 minus 1 times x plus 2, and write the third bracket over here. So that's 3x squared plus 6x minus x minus 2. Collect the like terms. 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. Now we expand these two brackets. So 3x squared gets multiplied with 3x plus 1. Then 5x gets multiplied with 3x plus 1. And then negative 2 gets multiplied by 3x plus 1. That's 9x cubed plus 3x squared plus 15x squared plus 5x minus 6x minus 2. Always recheck your expansion because there's a very high chance of making an error over here because we have several terms. Now collect the like terms. 3x squared plus 15x squared is 18x squared, negative x and negative 2. This is your expansion and simplification of triple bracket. I've noticed this from some students that they think that simplifying means that you have to take the highest common factor common. Not necessarily. Over here, when they say expand and simplify, they want you to expand the brackets first, and simplify means collecting the like terms so that your answer is in a more simplified manner. So that's what the simplify means over here. The next is indices. So you can get a negative power, you can get a fraction power, you can get anything. So whenever there's a negative power, always remember that we flip the fraction. Then the base in the fraction, not the power fraction, the fraction base, we will flip the fraction. So when you flip the fraction, it's 8xy squared in the numerator and 2x to the power 5 in the denominator. This makes your power positive. So now that the power is positive, we know that when there's a power inside the bracket, outside the bracket, we multiply the powers. That's one of the rules of indices. Remember that the power gets distributed on the coefficient as well, not just the variable. So it's going to be 8 square times x square times y to the power of 2 times 2. Then 2 square times x to the power of 5 times 2. So 64 x squared y to the power of 4 over 4 x to the power of 10. It says simplify fully, so now I'm going to simplify this. 64 divided by 4 is 16. X squared divided by x to the power of 10. Whenever we have similar bases being divided, we will subtract the powers. So 10 minus 2 is 8, so we can write x to the power of 8 in the denominator. If you want to keep it negative, we can write it in the numerator as x to the power of negative 8. Y to the power of 4 comes as it is because there is no other y, so we can't further simplify it. So this is your answer. Then percentage increase also very commonly comes. It says in 2017, the population of village was 7,500. In 2019, the population of the village was 8,265. We have to work out the percentage increase in the population of the village from 2017 to 2019. So for percentage increase, we do new value minus old value divided by the old value times 100. That is the formula that you will follow for percentage increase and decrease. So new value is 8,265 minus 7,500 divided by 7,500 times 100. Then just put this in the calculator. That's 10.2%. That is your percentage increase. Then in a sale, the normal prices are reduced by 30%. The sale price of a t-shirt was 31.50 euros. You have to work out the normal price. So if the sale price is 31.50 and the original price was reduced by 30%, which means your sale price basically represents 70% of the normal price. Once again, there's a reduction and they have given you the sale price. So if the reduction is by 30%, we always assume that the price exists as 100% initially. That 100% is always reduced or increased depending on what's happening in the question. So since there's a 30% reduction, 100 minus 30 is 70. So which means the sale price is 70% of the normal price. So to find the normal price, we'll do 31.50 times 100 divided by 70, which is going to give us 45. So 45 euros was your original price before the reduction. Then we can get like more algebra with indices and expanding brackets and all of that, factorization. So whenever we have similar bases being multiplied, we will always add the powers. If similar bases are being divided, we subtract the powers. Expanding brackets. So again, you're going to multiply k square with k cube. Similar bases being multiplied, we will add the powers. So 5 times k to the power of 2 plus 3 plus 4 times 5k square. That's 5k to the power of 5 plus 20k square. Expanding double brackets. So if you get stuck with this rainbow method where you're just multiplying the first term with both the terms in the second bracket and the second term with both the terms in the second bracket, what you can do is you can make the box method. Make a box, split into 4 parts because you have 2 brackets. One bracket comes horizontally and the other comes vertically. So you're multiplying the numbers outside the brackets with each other now. X times x, x square, x times 2, 2x, x times negative 5, negative 5x, 2 times negative 5, negative 10. Now we just add these answers. X square plus 2x minus 5x minus 10. Collect the like terms. 2x minus 5x is negative 3x. And that is your expansion and simplification. Remember, expanding is you opening the brackets. Simplifying is collecting the like terms. Not taking a common factor, just collecting the like terms. That's what they're saying. Then again, you can get a question on indices where they're multiplying similar bases and dividing at the same time. So in the numerator, since they're multiplying similar bases, we add the powers. And then when we're dividing similar bases, we subtract the powers. That's your answer. then average speed always comes. I've always seen this question in paper 1. So it says Pedro drove from Toulouse to Montpellier in 2 hours and 42 minutes. He drove at an average speed of 90 kilometers per hour. Then Janine drove along the same route as Pedro. The journey took her 3 hours. We have to work out Janine's average speed for the journey. So first, we try to find the distance using Pedro's journey, because if they're going along the same route, the distance is going to be the same. So we have been given the time and the speed. Speed is in kilometers per hour, which means the time has to be just in hours, not minutes and hours. So we convert the 42 minutes into hours by dividing it by 60. So 42 divided by 60, and that's going to be 0.7 hours. So total time is now 2 plus 0.7, which is 2.7. Always read the question carefully and make sure to highlight the metric units they're talking about. If you mess up your metric units, even if your steps are correct, your answer would be incorrect. So now that we have the time just in hours, now we're going to find the distance. Average speed is distance over time. So distance is going to be average speed multiplied by time. So that's 90 times 2.7. That's 243 kilometers. So we have to find Janine's average speed. We have her time. So average speed is going to be 243 divided by 3. That's 81 kilometers per hour. That is Janine's average speed. So main thing, look at your metric units. Average speed will be given in terms of hours or minutes, not a mix of both. So if the time is given in hours and minutes, you have to convert it into hours completely and then use it to find the distance or anything else that they're talking about. Then you can get a question on compound measures. I think pressure has a higher chance of coming this time. So it says a box is put on a horizontal table. The face of the box is in contact with the table, which is a square side of 1.5 meters. So it's a square. Let's highlight that. The pressure on the table due to the box is 34.8 newtons per meter square. Units, meter square meters. So we have that. We have to work out the force exerted by the box on the table. So we have this side length of the table that's in contact with the force. We don't have the area. So we can find the area first. That's going to be 1.5 times 1.5 because it's a square. So all sides are going to be equal. That's 2.25. Now, force is going to be pressure times area. They've given the formula over here. So I just made force the subject. 34.8, which is the pressure, times 2.25, which is your area. That gives me 78.3 newtons for the force. So that is the force exerted by the box on the table. This is one of the very scoring questions that appears very frequently. Just read the question carefully and see what they've given, highlighted down or listed down on the side so that you know what you have and what you don't have. And don't mix up values. Sometimes kids mix the length value with the area, even though it's not the area. They've given the length. So please read the question carefully and don't miss out on these easy marks. Then mean value. 5 children are playing on a trampoline. The mean weight of the 5 children is 28 kgs. 2 of the children get off the trampoline and their mean weight is 26.5 kgs. We have to work out the mean weight of the 3 children who remain on the trampoline. Again, this is also one of the very scoring questions. Mean is your sum of values divided by number of values. So if they've given us the mean for 5 children, and they've given us the number of children, that is 5, we can easily find the total sum of weights of the 5 children. Like the individual weights, their sum we can find by multiplying the mean with the number of children. Sum of 5 weights. So 28 times 5 is 140. Now we can do the same for the 2 children. So 26.5 equals to sum of 2 weights divided by 2. So multiply the 2. That's 53 kg. Now to find the sum of the weights of the 3 children, we will subtract these two. (140 minus 53), and that is 87 kgs. Now we have to find the mean weight, not just the sum. So for the mean, you just divide the sum by the number of children, and that's 3 children that we're talking about. And that's 29 kgs. That is your mean weight of the 3 children who remained on the trampoline. So again, this is a very easy question. You're doing the same thing again. Using the mean and the number of children, you find the sum of the total weights, in this case, for both the 5 children and the 2 children. When we subtract them, we get the weight of the 3 remaining children. So when we have the weights of the 3 remaining children, we can divide that by the number of children, which is 3, to get the mean value. So that's your answer. Then recurring decimals is also coming very frequently. So this has like 3 steps. First, you assume that x equals to the recurring decimal, which is 0.5727272. The dots are on 7 and 2, which means 7 and 2 are being repeated, not 5, 7, 2. So we have a recurring pattern of 7, 2. So now we have to move this decimal. To move this decimal, I'm going to multiply x with 10 first. 10x makes this 5.72 recurring. The reason why I'm going to multiply this with 10 and then with 1000 is because we want to convert the decimal into a whole number. And to do that, we need to make sure that the numbers after the decimal are equal. Why? Because once they're equal, I'm going to subtract them and then the decimal will be eliminated. We'll be just left with the whole number, which we can use to create a fraction. So next, I want to multiply x with 1000. Why? Because when I multiply x with 1000, that moves the decimal 3 places to the right. And when you move it 3 places to the right, the numbers after the decimal are exactly the same as what we have for 10x. If these numbers are not equal, then we cannot get rid of the decimal. So you have to make sure that the numbers after decimal are exactly the same for you to get rid of the decimal. So there's like a pattern. If you multiply x with 10, then you have to multiply by 1000. So you can just remember it like that. So, and whenever they're like 2 recurring numbers, there's always 10 times x and 1000 times x. You can even check that with other questions. I'll attach the link above for the recurring decimals video. It's always like that. If you have 2 recurring numbers, you multiply x with 10 first, then with 1000, and then you subtract the 2 equations. So 1000x minus 10x on this side, and then 572.72 recurring minus 5.72 recurring. That's 990x. And over here we have 572 minus 5, which is 567. Make x the subject. 567 divided by 990. This is showing 63 and 110, which means this was divided by 9. So 567 divided by 9 is 63, and 990 divided by 9 is 110. So that gives you the answer. So just 2-3 steps and you get your marks. Then trigonometry. So trigonometry always tends to come either in form of Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. I've included questions for both of them in this predicted paper so that you get to practice both and revise in case you're still struggling with these questions. So whenever we have a right angle triangle, first thing you need to remember is that we can either use Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. That is the key area for right angle triangle. Pythagoras is used when you are just dealing with lengths, like they haven't mentioned an angle in that case. SOHCAHTOA comes when they've given an angle. Over here, you can see that they've given us an angle of 40 degrees, which means we will be using SOHCAHTOA. So once you've identified that you have to use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras, next step is for you to label the lengths on the diagram. The diagonal is always the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is also always the longest length. So this is your hypotenuse. The length on which the angle lies, which is EF, that is always your adjacent. And the length opposite to the angle is always your opposite. So we have that sorted for triangle DEF. Now, if you look at the triangle EGF, the length opposite to the angle is your opposite. So for EFG, it's your opposite. This is your adjacent, and this is your hypotenuse. So they want us to work out the length of EG, which is this one. So to find EG, obviously we need a length because there's just an angle given for this triangle. So we can easily find the common length, which is EF between both the triangles, and then use that to find EG. So if you look at DEF, we said that 12 is the hypotenuse and EF is your adjacent. Now you look at your SOHCAHTOA and see which one of these trig ratios uses adjacent and hypotenuse. That's your cosine. Adjacent and hypotenuse is in cosine. In sine, it's opposite and hypotenuse, and tan is opposite and adjacent. So cos of 40 equals to EF divided by 12. Cross multiply because you want to find EF. So now we do 12 times cos 40. That's 9.19. That's EF. Now that we have EF, that is your opposite of this triangle. So let me just draw it separately over here. This is G, this is E, this is F. This is what we're trying to find. This is 9.19. This is 28. So we have our opposite. We have to find our adjacent. We have the angle. We use tan because tan uses opposite and adjacent. So we go to tan 28 equals to 9.19 divided by EG. Make EG the subject, so it's 9.19 divided by tan 28, and that is going to give us a value of 17.3 centimeters, correct with 3 significant figures. In case you're wondering, when do we take tan inverse or sine inverse or cos inverse? Tan inverse, sine inverse, and cos inverse is taken whenever you're trying to find an angle. If you're trying to find the length in a right angle triangle, we never take the inverse. So just remember that inverse is only taken when you're trying to find the angle. With lengths, we don't take the inverse. So this is how you do a SOHCAHTOA question. Then mean, mode, median, range. This is again a very popular question that very frequently comes. It says that we have 4 numbers, A, B, and 40. A is the least number and 40 is the greatest number, which shows that they've given the numbers in ascending order from smallest to biggest. The range of the 4 numbers is 14. Median is 30. We have to work out the value of A and B. So range is your difference between the maximum and the minimum value. So if maximum is 40, minimum is A, and range is 14. So A is going to be 40 minus 14, which is 26. So now if we write the numbers down, we have 26, B, and 40. They said that median is 30. Median is your middle value. Middle value is going to be over here, between the second and the third number. Why? Because there are 4 numbers in total. So middle is right over here. So that means we find the average of 26 and B. And that would equal to 30 because that is the median number. So cross multiply. That's 60, and then B is 60 minus 26. That gives us 34. So A is 26 and B is 34. These are your numbers. So for this, you need to remember what is mean. Mean is your sum of the numbers divided by the total number of numbers. What is your median? Median is your middle value. What is range? Difference between the maximum and the minimum value. What is the mode? Mode is the number that occurs most frequently. If you don't know these and if you're going to end up confusing them, you're going to lose easy marks again. So just revise these again. And if you're someone who struggles with understanding these questions, I'm attaching a link above for this topic. I've already made a topical video on this. And if you go through that playlist, you will find several other topics that you're going to be tested on. So do check those out. Then again, indices can come. This is a different type of question. When there's a power inside the bracket and outside the bracket, we multiply the powers and the power gets distributed on the coefficient as well. So it's going to be 3 to the power 4 times x to the power of 2 times 4 times y to the power of 5 times 4. 3 to the power 4 is 81. 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 4 is 20. So 81 x to the power of 8, y to the power of 20. That's your simplified answer. Then inequalities are also very commonly coming. So we have 7 minus 2y less than 3y minus 12. Solving an inequality, a linear one especially, is the same as solving a linear equation. We collect the like terms on each side and then find the value of the unknown. The only difference is that now your value of the unknown is going to be a range of values. It's not going to be a fixed value. So let's begin with moving 3y over here and 7 over here. So negative 2y minus 3y is less than negative 12 minus 7. Negative 5y, that's negative 19. Now, whenever we have a negative number attached with the variable that we're trying to find the value of, obviously we have to divide both sides by negative 5 because you want to make y the subject. When we're going to do that, we're going to flip the inequality. So it becomes the opposite thing. So now it's going to be y is greater than positive 19 over 5 because negative divided by negative is positive. If we were not dividing both sides by a negative number, we don't need to flip the inequality. But if you are, then flipping the inequality at the end is very important. If you don't do that, you will not get full marks. You will lose a mark at that point. So remember, if you're dividing both sides by a negative sign, you have to flip the inequality. It will always be the opposite one. Then adding fractions with unlike denominators. So for this, they can either give you an algebraic expression in the numerator or denominator. In this case, it's in the numerator. So what you have to do is you always have to make sure that the denominators are equal. If they're not equal, you cannot add or subtract fractions. So for this, we'll multiply the first fraction, both the numerator and denominator, by 3 and the second by 4. This way, we have a common denominator of 12. So 3 times 2x plus 1 over 12 plus 4 times x minus 2 over 12. 6x plus 3 over 12 plus 4x minus 8 over 12. Now we can rewrite this as a single fraction because the denominator is the same. 6x plus 3 plus 4x minus 8. Collect the like terms. We can't simplify it, yeah, because 5, 10, and 12, all three don't come in the same times table. So this is your simplified fraction. Then factorization. You can get an expression, they can ask you to factorize it. First, you check whether there's a highest common factor or not. We can see that 4c squared and 9d squared don't have any highest common factor in common. So what's the next? So next is we see whether there's square numbers or not. 4 is a square number, c is being squared, 9 is a square number, and d is also being squared. So which means we're going to use difference of perfect squares. So difference of perfect squares is a square minus b square equals to a minus b times a plus b. So over here, 2c is being squared and 3d is being squared, which means a is 2c and b is 3d. So it's going to be 2c minus 3d times 2c plus 3d. That is your fully factorized answer. So remember, first check whether there's a highest common factor or not. If there isn't, then it's difference of perfect squares always. Then you can get an algebraic fraction like this, and they can ask you to simplify it. So we have a quadratic equation in the numerator, also in the denominator, but in the denominator, we take the highest common factor common because we don't have 3 terms, we have 2 terms. Whenever we have 2 terms for a quadratic equation, we always take the highest common factor common, if possible. So for the numerator, once again, we multiply the quotient of x squared with a constant. Then list down other factors of the product, so 3 and 4, 6 and 2. So now we pick that set of factors which when added or subtracted give us the middle term. So that's 3 and 4 because 3 plus 4 is 7. So x squared minus 4x minus 3x plus 12. And over here between 4x and x squared we have x common. So 4 minus x goes in the bracket. Now factor by grouping in the numerator. We've already discussed this. First 2 terms make one group. Last 2 terms make another group. So the first group we have x common. So x minus 4 goes in the bracket. The second group we have negative 3 common. X minus 4 again goes in the bracket. Now x minus 4 is common, so that leaves x minus 3 in the other bracket. If you notice, between the numerator and denominator, we have x minus 4 common, so they get cancelled out because x minus 4 divided by x minus 4 is 1. So x minus 3 divided by x is your fully simplified answer. Then we have a histogram. The histogram gives information about the heights of all the year 11 students at a school. There are 160 students in year 11 with a height between 155 centimeters and 170 centimeters. We have to work out total number of students in year 11 at the school. So if you notice, they haven't given us the scale for the frequency density, which we need to figure out. 160 students are between 155 and 170. 155 and 170, that's this and this. So if we look at the bars from 155 to 170, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 big squares over here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 over here. So there's 16 in total. And there are 160 students in this part. So if we do 160 divided by 16, that gives us 10. So each small square is 10 students. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so we have 80 students over here and 80 students over here. That's how it will be divided. So now if the 80 students, the interval from 155 to 160 is 5. The interval to 160 and 170 is 10. Frequency density is your frequency divided by class width. Class width from 155 to 160 is 5. So 80 divided by 5, and that gives us 16. So this is 16 over here. That's the frequency density. And then if we do 80 divided by 10, that's 8. So that's 8 over here, because the class width over here is 10. So 80 divided by 10 is 8. So that means over here, this is going to be 4. This is going to be 12. And this is going to be 20. This is your frequency density. Now, we need to figure out the total number of students in year 11. So for this part, from 140 to 155, we have a class width of 15. And over here, if this is 4, this is going to be 6. This is 5 boxes over here. Since one big box represents 2 units, and there are 5 small boxes in it. So that means if we do 2 divided by 5, that's 0.4. So each small box equals to 0.4. So over here, we have 3 boxes above 6. So 6 plus 0.4 plus 0.4 plus 0.4. That's 7.2. This is 7.2. And this one is 8. This is going to be 6. And this is 2.4. So to find the frequency for each, for the first, it's going to be 7.2 times 15, which equals 108. Then for this part, 170 to 185. 6 times 15, that's 90. And lastly, from 185 to 190, 2.4 times 5, that's 12. So total students are going to be and the given 160 gets added as well. 370 students. That is your answer. Then moving on to the next question. Compound interest, that's also very common. So it says Kuru invests 50,000 yen for 3 years in a savings account. She gets 2.4% per year compound interest. Work out how much money Kuru will have in her savings account at the end of the 3 years. So we have, this is the rate of interest. This is what she's investing. This is the time period. You have to find how much she'll have at the end of 3 years. So you need to know that the compound interest formula actually gives us the final value of the investment. So that means P times 1 plus R over 100 to the power of T. This formula will give you the final value of the investment, not the interest earned. So 50,000, which is your principal amount, the amount that you invest, times 1 plus 2.4 over 100 to the power of 3. That's going to be 53,687.09 yen. They want the answer correct to the nearest yen. So that's 53,687. That is your final answer. So this formula is the main thing. And remember that the compound interest formula gives you the final value of the investment, not the interest earned. If they were asking to find the interest earned, you would subtract this value and the amount invested. That would give you the interest earned. Then you can get a question on like showing a linear inequality on a number line. It says on the number line, show the inequality y is greater than or equal to -2 and less than 1. So we start at -2 and end at 1. So since the -2 value is included, we're going to shade that circle and not shade the 1 value. Then just connect it with a straight line and that's it. When the value is included, the circle will be shaded. When it's not included, it will be blank. You need to know this distinction. Then n is an integer. Write down all the values of n that satisfy n is less than or equal to 2 but greater than -3.4. So integers are whole numbers, both positive and negative. So integer greater than -3.4 is going to be -3, then -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. 2 is included because it's an equal to over here. So that's your answer. Then probability with the table. So it says when the spinner is spun once, the probabilities that it lands on red or on yellow or on green are given the table. Work out the probability that the spinner will land on red or on yellow. So they've already given us the probabilities for those. So when it says or means plus. If it says and, that means multiply. So 0.25 plus 0.2. That's 0.45. That's your answer. Then Yang is going to spin the spinner 300 times. Work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on purple. So for that, you need to find the probability of purple first. So for this part, you need to remember that whenever there's a table like this, all of the probabilities will always add up to 1. Always. So the probability for purple is x right now. So 1 equals to 0.25 plus 0.2 plus x plus 0.2 again. That is 0.65 plus x. Subtract these. 0.35. That is the probability of getting purple. Now, the spinner is being spun 300 times. So we do 300 times 0.35 to find the number of times it will land on purple. That's going to be 105 times. That is your answer. So this question is again very scoring. They never give a very complicated question for this. Just remember that the values in the table will always add up to 1. Always. So using that, you will create your equation in terms of x, depending on what's given and not given. Find the missing probabilities and then find the estimate number by just multiplying the probability for that thing with the number of times the event is happening. That's it. Then circle theorems. B, D, E, and F are points in a circle. ABC is the tangent to the circle at B. Angle EDF is given as 40. FBC is given as 70. Prove that the tangent ABC is parallel to EF. So to prove that, we need to know the properties for angle and parallel lines. And for the circle theorem question, please memorize your circle theorems because they will not give you formulas for that in the formula sheet. You have to memorize these. And since in your case, they always ask you to give a reason as well. If you don't know the reason, you won't get the marks. So for each step you do, you have to give a reason for that. We need to first realize that this is a triangle inscribed in a circle. So if there's a triangle inscribed in a circle, all 3 vertices are touching the circumference of the circle, we can use alternate segment theorem. Based on the alternate segment theorem, this angle is going to be the same as this one. So this is also 70. This angle would equal to this, and this would be the common angle between the triangle and the straight line. Because sum of angles in a straight line is also 180, and sum of angles in a triangle is also 180. So first we write BDF equals to 70 degrees because alternate segment theorem. That is your reason for this step. Okay. Next, if you notice, this is a cyclic quadrilateral. because all four vertices of the quadrilateral are touching the circumference, which means opposite angles will add up to 180. So firstly, angle EDB is going to be 40 plus 70, which is 110. And then EFB is going to be 180 minus 110, which is 70 degrees. Reason being because in a cyclic quadrilateral, opposite angles add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so this entire is 70 degrees now. So you can clearly see that this angle is equal to this angle, and we know that in parallel lines, alternate angles are equal. So we had to show that EF is parallel to the tangent. So since the alternate angles are equal, they are parallel. So now, since EFB equals to FBC, which is 70 degrees, that means alternate angles are equal in parallel lines. Hence, the tangent is parallel to EF. That's proven. So these are your steps and the reasons that justify each of these steps. Then standard form. So this question is a mixture of standard form and product of prime factors and product of prime factors. So n is given as 480 times 10 to the power of 9. Write n as a number in standard form. So we know in standard form, the decimal needs to come after the first non-zero digit. First non-zero digit is 4. It should be 4.80. And since we're moving the decimal 2 places to the right, we add 2 to the power. Remember, every whole number has a decimal at its end. So there's a decimal after 480. Even if it's not written, just assume there is. So we move that decimal 2 places to the right. So that means we're going to add 2 to the power as well. So this is your answer in standard form. Then write n as a product of powers of its prime factors. You're working clearly. So n is 480, and then we have 9 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have to write this as a product of powers of its prime factors. 48 is 8 times 6. 8 is 2 cubed, 6 is 2 times 3. So 2 cubed times 2 times 3 times 10 to the power of 9, if I break this down. So that's 2 to the power of 4 because we have 4 2's, 3 over here, and 10 to the power of 10. Now 10 is basically 2 times 5. So replace 10 with 2 times 5. Both 2 and 5 get the power of 10 now. You can check that in the calculator as well. If you do 2 to the power of 10 times 5 to the power of 10, that's going to be 10 to the power of 10 as well. Yeah. So now combine the 2's again. Similar bases are being multiplied. We add the powers. So 2 to the power of 14, 3 comes as it is, and 5 to the power of 10. This is n written as a product of powers of its prime factors. It might look confusing at the first glance, but you just have to break it down and write it as its prime factors. Then find the largest factor of n that is an odd number. So these are all the factors of n. So for the largest factor of n, if I do 2 to the power of 14 times 3, that gives us 49,152. If I do 5 to the power of 10 times 3, that's going to give me 29,296,875. The reason why I'm multiplying 2 to the power of 14 and 5 to the power of 10 by 3 is because 3 is the odd number. So we have to see which one will give us the biggest number. So we can clearly see that 5 to the power of 10 times 3 is giving us the biggest number. So this is your largest factor of n, that is an odd number. That's your answer. Then probability. So there are 12 beads in a bag and 7 of the beads are red. 3 of the beads are green, 2 of the beads are yellow. Lucy takes at random a bead from the bag and keeps it. Then Julian takes at random a bead from the bag. So if Lucy is keeping the bead, that means there's one less bead in the bag now. So it is without replacement. Work out the probability that they each take a yellow bead. So this information was very important. Once Lucy has taken a bead from the bag, now the total number of beads are 11, not 12. So they each take a yellow bead. So if Lucy takes a yellow bead, that's going to be 2 out of 12. Then if Julian takes a yellow bead, now Lucy has taken one yellow bead. So now there's one left and total number of beads are going to be 11 as well. 2 ones are 2, this is 6, so that's 1 over 66. That is the probability that they each take a yellow bead. Then work out the probability that the beads they take are not the same color. So that means Lucy can take red and then Julian can take green. Or it can be green or red. Then yellow, red, red, yellow. Yellow, green, green, yellow. And red, green is done. Red, yellow is done. Yellow, green, yellow, red. No. I think all three are on. Red, green, red, yellow, green, yellow, green, red. Yeah. So these are our possibilities of them taking a different color each time. So red, green would be 7 out of 12. And then 3 out of 11 because there's one less bead now. And we're going to times it by 2 because there are two ways of picking it. Lucy can pick red first and then Julian can pick green or the other way around. Then for yellow, red, 2 out of 12. And then red is going to be 7 out of 11 because again, one less bead. And then yellow, green, 2 out of 12 and 3 out of 11. And both of these are times 2. So 12 times 11 is 132. 7 times 3 times 2, 42. 4 times 7, 28. And this is 4 times 3, 12. That's going to be 82 over 132, which if we try to simplify, gives us 41 over 66. That is the probability that they don't take the same color. So again, remember that there's going to be one less bead once Lucy has picked one because she's keeping the bead. She's not putting it back into the bag. That is very important information. Then you can get a cumulative frequency question. It says diagram gives information about the values in thousands of euros of 120 apartments in 2015. Find an estimate for the number of these apartments with a value of 80,000 euros or less in 2015. So 80,000 euros or less is, draw a line, a straight line using a ruler. Please not like the one that I've drawn. Okay, so this is 90, so that is 96. Find an estimate for the number of these apartments with a value of 80,000 or less. So that means we're focusing on all of this because they're saying 80,000 or less. So for 80,000 or less, the apartments we have are 96 apartments. So 96 is your answer. If it was saying 80,000 or more, then we would subtract 120 and 96 to get the values that were greater than. So this is again very important because most kids tend to confuse this. When it says less, then you just use the value that you get on the cumulative frequency. But if it's more, you subtract that value from the total cumulative frequency to get the values that are more than that. Then the table gives information about the values in thousands of euros of the same 120 apartments in 2018. We have to draw the cumulative frequency on the same grid and then find an estimate for the increase in the median value for these apartments from 2015 to 2018. So whenever we're sketching, whenever we're drawing a cumulative frequency graph, remember, you will always focus on the maximum values from the interval. So these are going to be your x values and these are your y values, always. So for 20, it's 0. Let's go back over here. I'm going to remove this. That is the first value. At 40, it's 15. $60 is 44. $80 is 85. $100 is 102. And 120 is 120. Okay, so now we just connect these. That's the cumulative frequency graph. So they said, find an estimate for the increase in median value for these apartments from 2015 to 2018. So median value for both. So median is going to be half. So 120 divided by 2 is 60. So we go at 60 and see what we're getting for both. I'm getting 54, 68. So talking about the increase, so we do 68 minus 54, and that's going to be 14,000 euros. That is the estimate for the increase in the median value for these apartments from 2015 to 2018. That's your answer. Then completing square form. So you have to rewrite this equation in completing square form. So first step is that you take the coefficient of x squared common from the entire equation. If the coefficient of x squared is anything but 1, you have to take it common. So 2 bracket x squared minus 6x plus 3 over 2. Take it common from the entire thing. Now, this is the square that we have to complete. Complete square is a square plus 2ab plus b square, which in factorized form is a plus b whole square. So we have our a square, which is x square. We have our 2ab, which is 6x. In this case, since it's minus 6x, so it's going to be minus over here. A minus b whole square, a square minus 2ab plus b square. So b square is what we're trying to find to complete the square. So we put 6x equals to 2ab. A is x. So divide the 2, and that's going to give us 3. So it's going to be x squared minus 6x plus 3 squared minus 3 squared as well. Why minus 3 squared as well? Because plus 3 squared is a new term that we're introducing in the equation. So if we're introducing a new term in the equation, you have to do the opposite as well. So if I'm adding something new, I have to minus it as well. Same thing as when we're changing the denominator, when we're adding or subtracting fractions. If we're multiplying the number in the denominator, we have to do it in the numerator as well. So exact same thing logic over here. If you're adding something new, you minus it as well. So now when you're completing the square, the complete square part is this. This will not be inside the bracket. So it's going to be 2 bracket x minus 3 whole square now. So this is your complete square. And this will be outside this bracket, so minus 9 plus 3 over 2. Now you multiply the 2. So 2 times x minus 3 squared. 2 times 9 is negative 18. 2 times 3 over 2 is 3. Collect the like terms outside the bracket, so that's negative 50. So that is one way of solving it. The other way is using the line of symmetry equation, which is x equals to negative b over 2a. So for that, b is negative 12, a is 2. So what you can do is you can put in this equation. That would give you the vertex, which is this value b over here. So that's positive 12 over 4, which is 3, the same as this. So you write x minus 3, because it's always negative in the bracket, not positive. And then once we have that, and then once we have the x value, what you do is you put it back into this equation to find the y value. So 2 times 3 squared minus 12 times 3 plus 3. That would give us negative 15. So that becomes your C value. So this is another way of doing this. You can use the line of symmetry equation, which is minus b over 2a, this thing. Find your b value. This value is this one. And then you put this back into the given equation to find the C value. Now for A, then you just need to realize that you have to take the coefficient of x squared common from the entire thing. So A would be 2. So both ways work. Whichever you understand better, just use that. Then curve C has equation y equals to 2 times x plus 4 whole square minus 12 times x plus 4 plus 3. The point M is the minimum point on C. Find the coordinates of M. So if you compare this with the equation in part A, you will notice that they're basically the same. What has happened is that x is different. First it was x, now it's x plus 4. So they're saying point M is the minimum point on C. Find the coordinates of M. So we have the completing square form, which is 2 times x minus 3 whole square minus 15. X is now x plus 4. So x plus 4 minus 3, that's going to be x plus 1. So for the original equation, minimum point is 3 and negative 15. So looking at the transformed curve, it's x plus 4. So whenever something is being directly added to x, you move that one units to the left. So which means it's going to be 3 minus 4. We're going 4 to the left, which gives us negative 1. And for negative 15, nothing is happening to the graph vertically. There's only a horizontal translation. So only the x coordinate will change. That's negative 1, negative 15. Once again, for this, remember that if something is being directly added to x, that means you're moving to the left side. If something is being subtracted from x, you're going to the right side. It's your horizontal translation. If something is being added or subtracted to the function, you're moving up or down. This is a part of transformation of graphs. If for someone who struggles with understanding transformation of graphs, I'm attaching a link above for that video. Do check that out in detail, because this question always comes. Transformation of graphs will come in paper 1 every single time. So you need to score these easy marks. Just go through that video, and if you get stuck somewhere, just ask me. But remember, the rule for y is logical. If you add, you go up. If you subtract, you go down. But for x, if you're adding, you go to the left, not to the right, to the left. And if you're subtracting, you go to the right. That is your vertical and horizontal translation in transformation of graphs. Then the next question that you can be tested on is upper bounds and lower bound. That is also very common. So I took the one with division. It says t equals to p over r. P is 0.5 when correct to 2 significant figures. R is 6.3 correct to 2 significant figures. Work out the upper bound for the value of t. So whenever it's correct to some significant figures, first what you check is what is that significant figure. Over here it says 2 significant figures. Second significant figure is 1. So now we check the place value of that significant figure. Place value of 1 is 0.01. For r, second significant figure is 3. Place value of 3 is 0.1. Next thing is look at your equation. What are we doing? Are we adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Over here we're dividing. To find the upper bound of t, we will divide upper bound of p by the lower bound of r. If it was lower bound of t, then it would be lower bound of t divided by the upper bound of r. If you're someone who struggles with understanding what to do in upper bounds and lower bound when the operation changes, whether it's plus, minus, times, or divide, you check out my link above. In that video, I've taken past paper questions to explain how to understand what to do and when to do. It's very easy. You just have to understand, like, how do we create the upper bound or lower bound. The difference only comes in subtraction and division. In multiplication and addition, it's very direct. For upper bound, you will add upper bound to upper bound. For lower bound, you will subtract. For multiplication, upper bound times upper bound, lower bound times lower bound. But when it's subtraction, if trying to find upper bound, it's upper bound minus lower bound. So it's not the same thing being subtracted from each other. Once again, do check that video out. It explains everything in a lot of detail. So coming back to this, we need to find the upper bound of P and lower bound of R. So for upper bound of P, first, we divide this place value by 2, which gives us 0.005. Now for upper bound, we will add this to 0.51. If it was asking us to find the lower bound, you would subtract it from 0.51. So that's going to be 0.515. Same steps for R. We divide the place value by 2. We always divide it by 2. That's 0.05. Now for the lower bound, we subtract it now. 6.3 minus 0.05, that is 6.25. Now that we have found the upper bound and lower bound for P and R, we're going to put them in the formula. So T is going to be 0.515 divided by 6.25. That's going to give us 0.0824. That is your upper bound for the value of T. Then ratios is also very common. In this one, it says 3 years ago, the ratio of Tom's age to Clemmie's age was 2:7. Tom is now 15 years old and Clemmie is now X years old. Find the value of X. So 3 years ago, it was in the ratio 2:7. And now it's 15 years old. So we know Tom's age right now, it's 15. So 3 years ago, his age is going to be 15 minus 3, which is 12. So we have Tom's age 3 years ago. So using the ratio, we can say 12 is 2/9 of the total. Because Tom's age has the number 2 in the ratio. So when you create a fraction from the ratio, it's 2 over 2 plus 7, which is 9. So 2/9 of the total is Tom's age. So 12 times 9 over 2 gives us the total of Tom and Clemmie's age 3 years ago, which is going to be 54. So now we can find Clemmie's age 3 years ago. That's going to be 54 minus 12, and that is 42. So Clemmie's age now would be 42 plus 3, because your 3 is in the present, so that's going to be 45. That is Clemmie's age. If you want to use some other method to solve this, that's also fine, as long as you're getting the correct answer, because this is like a basic ratio question mixed with algebra. Then surds. Surds also always comes. So you can get expanding a bracket with surds, you can get rationalizing a denominator, or you could get simplifying a surd when adding or subtracting. So in expanding brackets, root 3 gets multiplied with x and 2 root 3. So that's x root 3 minus 2 root 3 squared equals to x plus 2 root 3. Square of a surd is the number in the surd, so that's 2 times 3. That is 6. So they're saying that give your answer in the form of a plus b root 3. So we have to find the value of x. So we need to make x the subject first. So let's collect the terms with x on one side. Take x common. So we have 6 plus 2 root 3 over root 3 minus 1. As you can see, we have a fraction with a surd in the denominator. And to find the value of x, we have to rationalize the surd, because the answer is in this format. So it's going to be, so it's not going to be a fraction. So to rationalize a surd, we multiply and divide the fraction by the conjugate. So it's the same as the denominator, but with the opposite sign in the middle. So root 3 minus 1 becomes root 3 plus 1. Then we're going to multiply the numerator with the numerator and denominator with the denominator. The main point behind rationalizing the surd is that you're trying to get rid of the surd from the denominator. That's what we're trying to do. So 6 times root 3 plus 1, then plus 2 root 3 times root 3 plus 1. In the denominator, you can expand the bracket like this, or you can just directly do difference of perfect squares, which will leave us with root 3 squared minus 1 squared. That's the shortcut. Because as you can see, it's the same as a minus b times a plus b. So like we discussed before, a minus b times a plus b is the same as a square minus b square. So a is root 3, b is 1. So root 3 square minus 1 square. So that's 6 root 3 plus 6 plus 2 root 3 squared plus 2 root 3. Square of root 3 is 3. 1 square is 1. Collect the like terms. 8 root 3 plus 6 plus 2 times 3 again. This is 2. 8 root 3 plus 6 over 2, which becomes 12. Divide them by 2, and that's 4 root 3 plus 6. That is your value of x. So in the same question, we're expanding brackets and rationalizing the surd. Then standard form, they can ask you to convert from ordinary to standard or standard to ordinary. In this case, we're going from ordinary to standard. So every whole number has a decimal at its end, whether it's written or not written. So in standard form, the decimal comes after the first non-zero digit. So when you move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left, that's going to leave us with 1.39 times 10 to the power of 6. The power of 10 is going to be the number of places the decimal moves. If you're moving the decimal to the left, the power is positive. If you're moving it to the right, the power is negative. Given that, you're going from ordinary number to standard form. Then again, over here, we have to move the decimal after the first non-zero digit. 1, 2, 3. That's 5.0 times 10 to the power of negative 3 now, because we moved the decimal 3 places to the right. Then this is again similar to what we did. We're going to multiply and divide the fraction by the denominator, but with the opposite sign in the middle. So root 8 times root 8 plus 2 over root 8 minus 2 times root 8 plus 2. Expand the brackets. Root 8 squared plus 2 root 8. Difference of perfect squares in the denominator. Root 8 squared minus 2 squared. That's 8 plus 2 root 8 over 8 minus 4. That's 2 plus root 8 over 2. Now they're saying these two are the same numbers. So 8 can be rewritten as 2 root 2. So 2 plus 2 root 2 over 2. The 2's get cancelled out, and we have the answer in the same format as given the question. Is n plus root n. So n is 2. So make sure that you give your answer the same format as given the question. Otherwise, you will not get full marks. Then perpendicular lines. The straight line L1 has equation 2y equals to 6x minus 5. The straight line L2 is perpendicular to L1 and passes through the point 9, negative 1. Find an equation for L2. So if two lines are perpendicular, the products of their gradient will always equal to negative 1. So first you need to identify the gradient of L1. L1 is 2y equals to 6x minus 5. Make y the subject. So 6x over 2 minus 5 over 2. That is 3x minus 5 over 2. Y equals to mx plus c is the slope-intercept form. M is your slope and c is your y-intercept. This is basic coordinate geometry knowledge that you need to know about. So our gradient from L1 is 3. So M1 is 3. So I can find M2. 3 times m2 equals to -1. So m2 is going to be -1/3. They're telling us that L2 is passing to the point 9, -1. We have a point, we have the gradient, so we can easily use point-slope form to find the equation. You can even use slope-intercept form. If I use slope-intercept form, y is -1, m is -1/3, x is 9, and c is what we need to find. So -1 equals to -3 plus c. -1 plus 3 is c, and that is 2. So equation is y equals to -1/3x plus 2. That is L2. They want in the form of ay plus bx plus, they want in the form of ay plus bx equals to c. So multiply everything by 3 to get to the fraction. Then bring the x to the other side. So 3y plus x equals to 6 is your final answer based on the format given the question. Then vectors. Here's a triangle XYZ, the perimeter of the triangle. The next is your sine and cosine rule. So we have a triangle XYZ. The perimeter of the triangle is k centimeters. Given that x equals to y minus 1. Find the value of k and show your working theory. So x is y minus 1. So create an equation using cosine rule in terms of y and then find the value of y. Because without the value of y, we cannot get the value of x, and without that, we can't find the perimeter, which is k. Cosine rule is used when you have two lengths and the angle between them. We have 5, we have y, we have an angle, and we have the opposite length. The reason why we cannot use sine rule over here is because we would have to do a lot of extra calculation. We have to find an angle first, and that angle will kind of be irrelevant because our focus is on the length, not the angle. So it's just better to directly use cosine rule. So y minus 1 squared equals to 5 squared plus y squared minus 2 times 5 times y times cos of 60. That is your equation. Expand y minus 1 squared. This is 25. This is y squared. Cos 60 is going to be 1/2. This is y squared minus y plus 1. Then y divided by 2 is 5y. Y squared minus 2y plus 1. Now we bring everything on one side and collect the like terms. Require the subject. So y equals to 8. So x is going to be 8 minus 1, which is 7. So for the perimeter, it's going to be 5 plus y plus x. Perimeter is the boundary of the shape. So 5 plus 8 plus 7. And that equals to 20 centimeters. That is the perimeter of this triangle, which is the value of p. Then make m the subject of p squared equals to x plus m divided by 2m minus y. So right now, p squared is the subject of the equation. We have to make m the subject. Whenever there's a fraction, always cross multiply to get rid of the fraction first. Expand the bracket. Now they want us to make m the subject. So that means you need to collect all of the terms with m on one side. So bring this m over here and take the yp squared to the other side. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to isolate m on one side. Once I have all of the terms with m on one side, I can just take m common, and then I can easily make m subject. So I take a common now. And now m is going to be x plus y p squared divided by 2p squared minus 1. M is the subject of your equation. That's how you solve this. Then for this, I chose another question for indices for more practice, because this is always going to come. So you need to make sure that the topics that will get repeated are locked down. At least you know you're scoring these many marks. For the ones that occasionally come and are difficult, you can work on that later as well. But the ones that are easy and you know you can score those marks, those need to be locked down. So root a times a over a power of -2 can be written in the form of a to the power of k. Find the value. So whenever similar bases are being multiplied, we add the powers. Root represents the power of 1 over 2. Cube root represents the power of 1 over 3. Fourth root represents the power of 1 over 4. So it's just like that. Whatever small numbers are from the side, it's that power. So a to the power of 1 over 2 times a over a to the power of -2. Similar bases are being multiplied. We will add the powers. So this is power 1. That's 3 over 2. When similar bases are being divided, we subtract the powers. That's 7 over 2. So k is 7 over 2. That's your answer. Then over here, simplify 2 to the power of n minus 1 or 4 to the power of n minus 1. If you notice, we can rewrite this as difference of perfect squares because 4 is 2 squared. That's 2 to the power of n minus 1 over 2 to the power of n minus 1 times 2 to the power of n minus 1. These get cancelled out and we're left with 1 over 2 to the power of n minus 1. That is it. Then for probability tree diagrams, this is also a very common question. Each day that Barney goes to college, he either goes by bus or he walks. The probability that Barney will go to college by bus on any day is 0.3, which means to walk is going to be 1 minus 0.3, and that's 0.7. Then when Barney goes to college by bus, the probability that he will be late is 0.8. So if he's on time, that's going to be 0.8, because again, both the branches will add up to 1. So if one is 0.2, the other will be 0.8. Then when Barney walks to college, the probability he will be late is 0.1. So not late will be 0.9. So now Barney will go to college on 200 days next year. Work out estimate for the number of days Barney will be late for college next year. So for him to be late, he goes by bus and he's late, or he's walking and he's late. So when you're going along the branches, you multiply the probabilities. When you're moving across, you add. So 0.3 times 0.2 is him taking the bus and being late, plus him walking and still being late. So this will be the probability of him being late for college next year. So that is 0.13. That is 0.13. So now we want to know how many times he'll be late, given that he's going 200 days. So 200 times 0.13, and that's going to be 26 days. So he's going to be late for 26 days out of the 200 days. Then the table gives information about the times and hours some students spend during sport 1 week. Some students spend doing sport 1 week. Some students spend doing sport 1 week. Calculate an estimate for the mean time these students spend doing sport, giving your answer in hours correct to 1 decimal place. So whenever you have intervals for your values and they want you to find the mean value, you will always find the midpoint of your intervals. That's 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And then we have one column for that. And the next column, you will multiply your frequency with those midpoint values. So this is your midpoint. So we're going to do 5 times 1, 9 times 3, 24 times 5, 40 times 7, and 7 times 9. Find the midpoint of the interval first, then times it by the frequency value. Always when you have intervals like this and they want you to find the estimated p. That's 5, 27, 120, 280, and 63. Now we're going to add these values. So sum of fx divided by sum of f. So sum of f times x divided by sum of the frequency. So that's 5 plus 27 plus 120 plus 280 plus 63 divided by the total frequency. So that's 5 plus 9 plus 24 plus 40 plus 7. In most cases, they always give you the total frequency in the question. So you don't have to do the step in the denominator like that. But in the case they don't, just add the frequency values. That's 495 in the numerator. $85 in the denominator. Divide them, and that gives us 5.8 hours correct to 1 decimal place. That is your estimate for the mean time these students spent doing sport. Then parallel lines can also appear in your question. Then you can be tested on parallel lines as well. A, B, C, and D, F are parallel lines. BG equals to BE. So that makes BGE an isosceles triangle. Because if two lengths are equal, the opposite angle will also go. Then angle BEG is 38 and angle GEB is 65. Find the value of ABG. This is the angle that we're trying to find. So if these two lines are parallel, that means this angle is alternate to this angle. So EBG is 38 plus 65, which is going to be 103. So 103 is going to be over here because they're alternate angles. Then we can easily find the third angle over here because GBE is an isosceles triangle. So we have two angles. The third angle is going to be 180, 180 minus 65 minus 65. That gives us 50 degrees. So now we can find ABG because angles on a straight line add up to 180. So 180 minus 50 minus 103. And that gives us 27 degrees. That is your size of the angle ABG. So remember your properties for parallel lines. You need to know about alternate angles, corresponding angles, vertically opposite angles, interior angles, all of these angles, you should know about them. If someone struggles with interior angles, again, go to the topical playlist. I'm attaching the link above and do practice the video and do go through the video for angles and parallel lines because there are ample questions there which are a part of which were taken from your past papers. Then money problems. Each month, Edna spends all her income on rent, on travel, and on other living expenses. She spends 1/3 of her income on rent, 1/5 of her income on travel. Then she spends $420 of her income on other living expenses. We have to work out her income each month. So rent is 1/3 of X. X is her income. Travel is 1/5 of X. And 420 is living expenses. So LE is 420. So this is a total expenditure per month. So if we add these up and put it equal to x because x is her income. Because it's saying she's spending all of her income. So all of her income is being spent on rent, travel, and other living expenses. So that means 103x plus 105x plus 420 will equal to x, which is the income. So when we're adding or subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, we have to make the denominators equal. So we multiply 420 by 15. 103x by 5 because the common denominator I'm picking is 15 and 105x by 3. So 15 times 420 will be 6,300. That's 5x over 15. That's 3x over 15. That's 300 plus 8x over 15 is x. Cross multiply. Let the like terms on each side. That gives us 7x. So 6,300 divided by 7, that is $900. That is her income. Then we have functions. So for functions, they can ask you to find the inverse, the composite function, or like the domain and range, anything. The question I chose that asks us to find the inverse. So we have two functions, f of x and g of x. H of x is f of g of x. So that means we have to find the composite function of f of gx first, and then find the inverse of that, because that's what the question is asking us to. So f of gx means that we are replacing the domain in x with g of x. So wherever there is x in f of x, that's going to be replaced by the entire g of x function. So 1 plus 1 over g of x basically. So that's 1 plus 1 over x plus 1 over 2. So when we flip this fraction, it's 1 plus 2 over x plus 1. So that is your f of gx, which is also your h of x, as indicated in the question. You have to find the inverse of that. So for that, we first put the equation equal to y. Then we replace x with y and y with x. So we swap them. So it's x equals to 1 plus 2 over y plus 1. Now we have to make y the subject of the equation. So for that, I first take 1 to the other side. So it's x minus 1 equals to 2 over y plus 1. Then swap the x minus 1 and y plus 1. So y plus 1 equals to 2 over x minus 1. Then I take the 1 to the other side. So 2 over x. So 2 over x minus 1 is your y, which is your h inverse of x. That is your inverse of the function. Yeah, that's it. Then again, I put more indices so that you don't get these wrong. So solve 2 to the power of negative 4x equals to 32. So whenever you have indices and they haven't given the same base, you have to convert it to the same base. We can't convert 2 into another number, but we can convert 32 into the base of 2, because 32 is 2 to the power of 5. So we write 2 to the power of negative 4x equals to 2 to the power of 5. Whenever we have same bases existing alone on both sides of the equal to sign, the powers are also equal. So x is going to be negative 5 over 4. That's it. Very simple. Just remember, when the bases aren't same, that means you have to make the bases same. Then solving a linear equation with variables on both sides. So either they can give you fractions on both sides or just one side. So what you will do is you will always cross multiply to get rid of the fraction. So 5x minus 3 equals to 4 times 2x plus 3. Expand the bracket now. So that's 8x plus 12. Collect the like terms on both sides. Negative 3 minus 12 equals to 8x minus 5x. Negative 15 equals to 3x. negative 15 divided by 3, and x is negative 5. Simple as that. Easy 3 marks. You need to be at the top of your game in algebra because most of the paper is algebra. And if you know algebra, you should be able to score a good number of marks, even if the other topics aren't that strong. The inverse and direct proportion, that has a very high chance of coming as well. So P is inversely proportional to y square when y is 4 and P is 3. Find a formula for P in terms of y and. So if P is inversely proportional to y square, first we create an equation. Inversely proportional means it's going to be 1 over y squared over there. So when you remove the proportionality sign, it's k over y squared. Always introduce the constant of proportionality because if you don't, your answer will be incorrect. So first step is to get the equation right. So P is k over y squared. Now replace the value of y and P with the given values to find the value of k. That is the next step. A equals to k over 4 square. A equals to k over 16. 16a is the value of k, which means P is 16a over y squared. That is your formula of P in terms of y and k. So just remember, first create the equation in terms of k, then find the value of k based on the given values, put it back in, then you have your formula. In terms of the other variables, there will be no k because it has been replaced with its numerical value. And then see if it's asking you to find another value. So over here, then it says given also that y is directly proportional to root x. So if it's directly proportional, then it's not going to be a fraction. It's going to be y equals to k times root x. In inverse, it's a fraction. In direct, it's just multiplication, no division. So when x is a, p is 4a. Let's find k again. So 4. So it says when x is a, p is 4a. Find a formula for p in terms of x and a. So we know that p is 16a over y squared. They want a formula for p in terms of x and p. So if I make y the subject over here, this is what I have. To replace y with this, root of 16a over p equals to k root x. Now we have a, we have p, we can use that to find the value of this k now. So 16a over 4a equals to k times root of a. So that is 4. Let's cancel out 16 by the 4 is 4. And this is 2 over root a. That's your value of a. So y is 2 over root a times x. They want a formula for p in terms of x and a. So again, we go back to this equation. Replace y with 2 over root a times root x equals to root of 16a over 3. So what we can do is, we can square both sides to get at the root first. So that's 4x over a equals to 16a over b. We have to find a formula for p in terms of x and a. So p equals to 16a times a divided by 4x. I brought the p to the left-hand side and cross-multiplied a with 16a and then divide by 4x. So that's p equals to 4a squared over x. That's the formula for p in terms of x and a. So I chose the most confusing question because you never know, they might give an easy one as well. Main thing is you need to remember that you have to create your formulas using k. Find k's value and then find the other value. If you don't do that, you will end up losing marks and getting the equation wrong. Then similar shapes. So a question for similar shapes always comes, especially for volume and surface area. So the diagram shows two similar bases A and B. The height of base A is 30 and the height of base B is 12. Given that surface area of base A minus surface area of base B is 178.5 centimeters squared. Find the surface area of base A. So first, let's create your scale factor. Scale factor is going to be height of base A divided by height of base B. So that's 30 over 12. That's going to be 2.5. That is your scale factor. Now they're saying surface area of base A minus surface area of base B is 178.5 centimeters square. So surface area of A divided by surface area of B is equal to square of height of A divided by height of B. That is the rule when you're talking about the area of similar shapes. If you're talking about the volume of similar shapes, then the volume of A divided by volume of B is equal to the cube of height of A divided by height of B. If you're just comparing lengths, then it's just the lengths. We're not squaring or cubing. So over here, this is 2.5 squared. We can make surface area of A the subject. Actually, wait, I would want to make surface area of B the subject because they want us to find surface area of A. 2.5 squared, that's 6.25. So surface area of A divided by 6.25 is surface area of B. I'm going to substitute this in the equation given over here, this one. And then the entire equation would just be in terms of surface area of A. So surface area of A minus surface area of A divided by 6.25 is equal to 178.5. This is the equation that we will solve to find surface area of A. So this becomes 6.25 SA minus SA divided by 6.25 equals to 178.5. So that's 5.25 SA over 6.25 equals to 178.5. Cross multiply. That gives us a value of 1,115.625. Now we divide that by 5.25. And that gives us 212.5 centimeters squared. That is your surface area of base A. So just remember this thing. You have to get this equation right. If you end up doing this wrong, then you'll mess up your question. Then you can be tested on area and perimeter of 2D shapes where they can give you a compound shape, like a triangle mixed with a semicircle like this, or with a rectangle, or anything like, you know, a trapezium and a rectangle together, any compound shape. So in these type of questions, sometimes you use SOHCAHTOA, sometimes you use Pythagoras. Once again, it depends on, like, you know, if it's a right angle triangle, what is given. Over here, the diagram shows a shape made of 3 semicircles enclosing a right angle triangle. So we know we'll either use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras because they've mentioned right angle triangle. A, B, B, C, and C are each diameters of a semicircle. So which means for this one, the radius is going to be 3. Again, this one radius is going to be 3 because radius is half of the diameter. We don't know the radius for the third semicircle. We have to work out the perimeter of the shape. So perimeter is the boundary. And for the boundary, we can see that it's these curved parts, the circumference of the semicircle. So we have to find the diameter of the bigger semicircle to figure out the circumference. Like I mentioned before, when you have lengths given in a right angle triangle and they want you to find the third length, we will always use Pythagoras. The diagonal is always your hypotenuse. So hypotenuse square always equals to the sum of the squares of the other 2 lengths. So that's going to be 36 plus 36, which is 72. And then we take square root of 72, and that gives us 8.49. So this is your diameter of the bigger semicircle. So radius is going to be half of it. 4.245. Now to find the circumference of the 3 semicircles. Circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So for a semicircle, It's going to be half of this, so that's pi r. So semicircle circumference. So first, the radius is 3 and this is also 3. So these have the same circumference. So pi times 3 times 2. Pi r and times 2 because we have identical semicircles. Plus pi times 4.245. So that's 6 pi plus 4.245 pi. Put in the calculator and that gives you 32.2 as your perimeter correct to 1 decimal place. So again, for the perimeter, we're talking about the boundary of the shape. The shape has the boundary of 3 semicircles. 2 are equal to each other and the third one is bigger. So for the semicircle that's equal, the perimeter is 2 pi r, which is 2 times pi times 3 because they have the same radius. For the other one, it's pi times 4.245 added up, and that gives you the perimeter. This is perimeter actually. Not the circumference, perimeter. So that's your answer. Then you can be tested on angles and polygons. So we have this hexagon. It's not a regular hexagon because the question hasn't mentioned that, and the sides and angles aren't even equal as indicated in the question. A, B, B, C, and C are 3 sides of a regular n-sided polygon. So this thing over here, this is a regular n-sided polygon. This, not the hexagon, that's an irregular polygon. So we have to calculate the value of n. So to calculate the value of n, we need an interior angle. Without an interior angle, we cannot calculate the value of n. So for that, what we need to do is we need to find the interior angle over here. Because if you notice, this is going to be a full circle. So angles around a point add up to 360. So if we have this angle, we can subtract that from 360 to get the interior angle of this regular n-sided polygon. And once we have that, we can use the interior angle formula to find the value of n. So first, we use sum of interior angle formulas to find this angle. For this question, you have to memorize these angles because they're not going to be in the formula sheet. So I'm attaching the link in the description for this as well. I've created a formula sheet for the formulas you need to memorize. So just download the sheet and just memorize those formulas because not all formulas are going to be given in the formula sheet. So that's n minus 2 times 180. For the hexagon, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So n is 6 for this. So you write 6 minus 2 times 180, and that equals 720. So angle C is going to be 720 minus 90 minus 95 minus 149 minus 104 minus 57. That gives us 225. So then BCD is going to be 360 minus 225. This will give us the interior angle. That's 135. So this over here is 135. This is also 135 because it's a regular polygon. So interior angles are going to be equal. So we use the interior angle formula now. 135 equals to n minus 2 times 180 over n. The difference between an interior angle formula and sum of interior angle formula is that in each interior angle formula, we divide it by the number of sides. Cross multiply, expand the brackets over here. Then we collect the like terms on each side. That's 45n. So 360 divided by 45, and that gives us 8. So this n-sided polygon has 8 sides. So remember to memorize these formulas because these formulas are not going to be given to you in the formula sheet. Then it says simplify x squared minus 4 divided by 4x squared minus 7x minus 2 over x minus 2x. Give your answer to the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are integers. So in solving and simplifying an algebraic fraction is a very popular question that always comes at the end of the paper. This is one of the harder questions. But honestly speaking, it's not that hard because you need to remember how to factorize quadratic expressions or linear expressions. And then you have to remember basic fraction functions. What do we do when we add fractions, when we subtract fractions, multiply or divide? Trust me, this question is not hard. It's actually an easy one. So first, let's factorize x squared minus 4. We have two perfect squares being subtracted, so we use difference of perfect squares. So it's going to be x minus 2 times x plus 2. For this part, let me just highlight it. This is this. Okay. Now, whenever we are dividing fractions or like dividing a whole number by a fraction or vice versa, we keep the first thing as it is, change division to times, and flip the second fraction. So we flip it. Minus 2x comes as it is. Now, let's simplify the quadratic equation in the denominator over here. So 4 times 2 is 8. Multiply the quotient of x squared with the constant. So 4 times 2, 8. Now we find other factors of 8, which are 8 and 1. Like that sort of factors which when added or subtracted gives us the middle term. So that's going to be 8 and 1 because 8 minus 1 is 7. So 4x squared minus 8x plus x minus 2, and the minus 2x comes as it is. Now we do factor by grouping. First two terms have 4x in common. Last two terms have plus 1 in common. So we have x minus 2 times 4x plus 1. Rewrite this as a single fraction because they're being multiplied. So it's x minus 2 times x plus 2 times x in the numerator. The denominator, we have x minus 2 times 4x plus 1. Now you can clearly see that x minus 2 is being divided by x minus 2, so they get cancelled out. And over here we have this minus 2x. This is this. This is your factorized part for this. Now, we have x plus 2 times x over 4x plus 1 minus 2x. Whenever we're adding or subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, over here the 2x has a denominator of 1. When there's no denominator written, it's 1. So when we're adding or subtracting fractions, with unlike denominators, we always make the denominators equal. That is the first step. So we times this fraction by 4x plus 1, both the numerator and the denominator. So that's x squared plus 2x minus 2x times 4x plus 1. And we have a common denominator of 4x plus 1. Expand the bracket and collect the like terms. So we have negative 7x squared over 4x plus 1. So A is negative 7, B is 4, and C is 1. That is your answer. Then you can get a difficult question on indices as well at the end of the exam. Questions that we're discussing now, these are the ones that come at the end of the exam, so these are the harder ones. So say it's given that m equals to 18 to the power 4n times 2 cube whole power n square minus 6n times 3 square times 1 minus 4n over 12 square. So in these type of questions, when you have an indices question like this, remember to make the bases into prime factor base. Just convert all of them into prime factor base. Over here, the prime factor base given to us is 2, and then we have 3. So you have to rewrite 18 and 12 in the form of 2 and 3 if possible. And it would be possible, trust me. They wouldn't give you a question that you can't write it like that. So 18 we know is 9 times 2. And 9 is 3 squared. So 18 can be rewritten as 3 squared times 2. 12 is 4 times 3. 4 can be rewritten as 2 squared. So that's 2 squared times 3. Both can be rewritten in the base of 2 and 3, which is given in the question as well. And m they've already said is 2. So write 2 equals to 3 square times 2 whole power 4n times 2 cube. I'm going to expand the bracket over actually. 3n squared minus 18n, and then 3 to the power of 2 minus 8n divided by 2 square times 3 whole power 2. Just make sure that you're rewriting your numbers in the prime factor base that is already identified in the question, which is 2 and 3. So 18 became 3 square times 2, and 12 became 2 square times 3. Now, whenever there's a power inside the bracket and outside the bracket, we always multiply the powers. So it's going to be 3 to the power of 2 times 4n. Whenever there's no power, it's always 1. So 2 to the power of 1 times 4n times 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 18n times 3 to the power of 2 minus 8n, 2 to the power of 4, because 2 2s are 4, times 3 square. Now I'm going to cross multiply and bring the 2 to the power of 4 and 3 squared over here so that we get it as a fraction and collect the like terms over here. So we know that we have a similar base of 3 over here and you have a similar base of 2 over here. So rules of indices, whenever similar bases are being multiplied, we add the powers. So 3 to the power of 8n plus 2 minus 8n times 2 to the power of 4n plus 3n squared minus 8n. Again, combine the powers over here. So 5. So that's going to be 3 to the power of 2 times 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 14n. Now we have 3 squared over here and over here. So basically they're going to get divided by each other. So they get cancelled out. So 2 to the power of 5 equals to 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 14n. When we have similar bases existing alone on both sides, we can put the powers equal to each other. And as you can see, we will have a quadratic equation now. So we have to solve this quadratic equation to find the value of n. 3 times 5 is 15. Factors of 15 which you can use to replace 14 is 15 and 1. So 3n squared minus 15n plus n minus 5. Between 3n squared and 15n, we have 3n common. Between n and negative 5, we have plus 1 common. So we take n minus 5 common, and that leaves us with 3n plus 1 in the bracket. So one value of n is 5, and the other is negative 1 over 3. These are your values of n for this question. So trust me, this is not difficult. It's easy. It looks very weird, but like you have to just use your rules of indices. Change of base rule, make all of the bases the same as given the question. Then when there's a power inside the bracket and outside the bracket, you multiply the powers. Then if similar bases are being divided, we subtract the powers. If similar bases are being multiplied, we add the powers. These are the only rules that are going to be used over here. Then vectors. So vector O is given as A, vector OC is given as C, and vector AB is 2C. P is the point on AB such that AP is to PB is 3:1. Q is the point on AC such that OQP is a straight line. So this is a straight line. Then it says that use a vector method to find AQ is to QC. Okay. So first we're going to find AC because we have OA and OC. So AC is going to be AO plus OC. I'm going from here to here. When you change the direction, the sign changes, so it becomes negative A plus C. Then they have told us that AB is 2C. And P lies on AB. So using the ratio, I'm going to figure out the vectors for AP and PB. So AP is going to be 3/4 of AB because we're going to create a fraction using the ratio. Numerator is going to be the number assigned to that thing, and denominator is the sum of values in the ratio. So 3/4. So that's 3/4 times 2A times 2C because AB is 2C. So that's going to be 3/2 times C. Then PB again would be 1/4 of AB. So that's 1/4 times 2C. That's C over 2. That's PB. 3 over 2 times C, and this is C over 2. Okay, now to figure out OQ and QC, they haven't given us the ratio which we have to figure out basically. So what we can do is we can create an equation for OP. We can easily find OP because OP is going to be OA plus AP. OA is A and AP is 3 over 2 times C. Now OQ lies on OP because OQP is a straight line. So we can say that OQ is some scale factor times OP. That is one equation for OQ. The reason why I'm trying to find OQ first, because once we have OQ, we can easily find AQ and QC. Then if we create another equation for OQ, we can say that we can actually find BC as well because we have AC. Let's find BC too. BC would be BA plus AC. Yep, we can do that. So that's negative 2C and AC is negative A plus C. So that's negative A minus C. That is BC. Okay. So I'm going to use the BC equation, PB and OC to find an equation for OP. And then using that, I'll create another equation for OQ. So OP is going to be OC plus CB plus BP. So that's C plus A plus C. We're changing the direction, the sign changes. And BP is going to be negative C over 2 because we changed the direction. So that's going to be A plus 3C over 2. Okay, so we have OP now. So if you notice, we have AC that we found like the first thing, and AQ lies on AC. Okay, so AQ is some part of AC. So if I use that equation over here, AQ is some scale factor times AC. Okay, AQ is also AO plus OQ. We have that. And AC is negative A plus C. So if I make OQ the subject again, because I mentioned I'm going to make two equations for OQ and I'm going to use that. So that's going to be K times negative A plus C minus AO. AO is negative A, so K times negative A plus C minus negative A. So that becomes plus A. Okay. So we have one equation for OQ, which is over here. And then we have this. We're going to put these two equal to each other. We found OP. OP is A plus 3C over 2. So it's going to be like this. This is what we'll write. So now that's negative AK plus CK plus A equals to lambda A plus 3C over 2 lambda. We'll put the coefficients of A equal to each other on both sides and coefficients of C equal to each other on both sides. So we have two separate equations. For it's going to be negative K plus 1 equals to lambda. For C, it's going to be K equals to 3 lambda over 2. These are your two equations now. So K is 3 lambda over 2. So if we substitute that over here, that's 3 lambda over 2 plus 1 equals to lambda. 1 equals to lambda plus 3 lambda over 2. That's 2 equals to 5 lambda. 2 or 5 is lambda. So 2 or 5 is the value of lambda. So K is going to be 3 over 2 times 2 over 5. So 3 over 5 is your value of K. So we need to find AQ is to QC. AQ is K times AC. So AQ is going to be 3/5 times AC. So that means QC. So that means QC is going to be 2/5 times AC because they both lie on the straight line. Hence, your ratio is going to be 3:2. That is your answer. Let me just highlight that. So for these type of questions, always create two equations for one vector, put them equal to each other, find the values of your unknowns, and then use those to find the given ratio. That is the standard step for these. And the beginning, if you think you don't know how to do it, just find as many vectors as you can. Just keep finding vectors, look at the diagram, because you will at least get marks for those vectors. So just don't leave it empty, solve it as much as you can and try to do it. First step, find as many vectors as you can. Then use your ratios to create more equations. Then pick a vector that is common between the vector that you're trying to find, even if it's just a vector or ratio, and then create two equations for that. Once you've created two equations for that, put them equal to each other, find the values of the unknowns, and then use those to find the ratio. Trust me, it works every time. This is the vector method that you have to use to find the ratio or like value of an unknown variable. Now we have sequences and series. So the 25th term of an arithmetic series is 44.5, and the sum of the first 30 terms of this arithmetic series is 765. Sequence and series is very common, so that comes almost every single time, so don't miss this topic out. So we have to find the 16th term of the arithmetic series so you're working clearly. So the 25th term is given as 44.5. Sum of the first 30 terms is 765. We have to find the 16th term. So we'll create two equations using these two. One would be for the nth term and one would be for the sum of the series. And then using that, we'll figure out the value of the first term and the common difference because we don't have that. And once we have that, we can figure out the 16th term. So first term is unknown, common difference is unknown. We have to find these as well. So Tn is a plus n minus 1 times 3. That is your nth term equation. Tn is 44.5. A is unknown. N is going to be 25 because we're talking about the 25th term. And D is an unknown. Expand the brackets. This is your first equation. Now sum of the 30 terms. So Sn equals to n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. That is your equation for sum of n terms. Sn is going to be 765 because you're focusing on the sum of the first 30 terms. N is going to be 30. A is an unknown. N is again 30. D is an unknown. So that's 765 equals to 15 times 2a plus 29d. 765 can be divided by 15. That's 51. So 51 equals to 2a plus 29d is your second equation. Now, we have to solve these two simultaneously to find the value of a and d. I can multiply the first equation by 2 to make a the same in both the equations, then we can just eliminate a using elimination method. 44.5 times 2 is 89. That's 2a. That's 48d. Now we subtract both the equations because the variable that we're trying to eliminate is positive in both equations. So when we minus the equations, 2a gets eliminated. So 89 minus 51 equals to 2a minus 2a plus 48d minus 29d. So 89 minus 51 is 38. 48 minus 29 is 19. So 38 divided by 19, and that's 2. That is your common difference. For the first time, we put it back into any of the equations. I'm going to pick the second one. So that's going to be 58, -7. So that's -3.5. That is A. So for 16th term, it's going to be -3.5 plus 16 minus 1 times 2. I'm using the nth term formula because I want the 16th term. So I solve this. And that's going to be 26.5. That is your 16th term. And that's your answer. So the sequences and series questions are normally very simple. Difficult question came last year. So this year, they might give an easy one. It might not be that hard. Then differentiation. You can either get differentiation directly where they're talking about a curve, or you can get like a kinematics question where they talk about displacement, velocity, and all of that. So we have an equation for curve C, which is y equals to x cubed minus x squared minus 8x plus 12. We have to find dy by dx. So you just bring the power down, multiply it with the term, and subtract 1 from the original power. So that's 3x, 3 minus 1 in the power, minus 2x, 2 minus 1 in the power, minus 8 times 1 times x with 1 minus 1 in the power. And for the constant, it's always 0. Whenever you're differentiating a constant, it is always going to be 0. So that's 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. This is your dy by dx. So easy 2 marks you've scored. Now it says the curve C has 2 turning points. Work out the x coordinate of the 2 turning points. So to work out the turning points, remember that at the turning points, dy by dx is always equal to 0. Always. Turning points are your stationary points. They're also called your maximum points or your minimum points. These are the terms we use for turning points. So if you see in the question, find the stationary point, find the maximum point, find the minimum point, or the turning point in a differentiation question, just put the dy by dx equal to 0 and solve that equation. You will get 3 more marks after that. So dy by dx equal to 0. 0 equals to 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now we factorize this quadratic equation. 3 times 8 is 24. Factors of 24 that we can use to replace 2 are 6 and 4. Because 6 minus 4 is 2. Now factor by grouping. First 2 terms have 3x in common. So x minus 2 comes in the bracket. Last 2 terms have 4 common. X minus 2 in the bracket. Between 3x and plus 4, we have x minus 2 common. So now x minus 2 equals to 0. 3x plus 4 also equals to 0. So one value of x is 2 and the other is -4/3. These are your x coordinates of the turning points. If they were asking to find the complete coordinates, you would put these values of x back into the original equation and find the corresponding y values as well. Then show that the x-axis is a tangent to the curve C. Since they want us to show that the x-axis is a tangent to the curve C, so we know that we have 2 points on C over here. X equals to 2 and x equals to -4/3. So what you're going to do is you're going to substitute these 2 points into the equation of the curve and see which one gives y as 0. Because at the x-axis, y is 0. So y equals to, let's put x equals to 2 and see if we're getting 0. So when you substitute this, that's 8 minus 4 minus 16 plus 12. 8 minus 4 is 4. -16 plus 12 is also 4. So 4 minus 4, that gives us 0. So this shows that this point, which is 2, 0, firstly, it's a turning point. So if I draw a curve, basically, this is one point, this is the other point. So if this one is 2, 0, we can see that it's also a tangent to it because it's a turning point. So the x-axis is being a tangent to this. Or what you could have done was you could have put the other one in the equation, -4/3, and that would have shown you that y does not equal to 0. So which means that point was not a tangent, but this is a tangent. So shown. that the x-axis is the tangent to the curve C. Because over here, when x is 2, y is 0. And it is a turning point as well, which means your tangent is always at the turning point. It's never crossing the graph. It's always touching the graph outside. So that's how it's over here as well. So that's how you prove it. Then cones and spheres. So I chose the question that kids get most confused on so that in case this comes, you know how to solve this. So it says that the diagram shows a frustum of a cone and sphere. The frustum is made by removing a small cone from the large cone. The cones are similar. Now the key word over here is similar. So we're going to use the concept of similar shapes. The height of the small cone is h. Height of the large cone is 2h. The radius of the base of the large cone is r centimeters. The radius of the sphere is also r centimeters. Given that the volume of the frustum is equal to the volume of the sphere, find an expression for r in terms of h. Give your expression in its simplest form. So for this, let's create equations for the volume first, because saying volume of the frustum is same as the volume of the sphere. To find the volume of the frustum, we have to subtract the volume of the large cone and volume of the small cone. But as you can see, for the small cone, we don't have the radius, we only have the height. But we know that both cones are similar. So using the concept of similar shapes, let's figure something out. We know when you talk about the volume in similar shapes, volume of large shape divided by volume of small shape is equal to height of large divided by height of small whole cube. So volume of large divided by volume of small is going to be 2h over h cubed, which is 2 cube, and that's going to give us 8 because the h gets cancelled out. Okay, so we have this. So volume of large cone is 8 times volume of the small cone. Now, if I create an equation for the volume of the large cone, because we do have the height and the radius, so that's going to be 1 over 3 pi r square h. That is the formula for the volume of a cone. So 1 over 3 pi r is r, h is 2h. So 2 over 3 pi r square h is the volume for the large cone. So volume of the small cone is going to be 1/8 of that. That's going to be 2 ones are 2, that's 4. So that's 1 over 12th of pi r square h. That is the volume of the small cone. So now volume of frustum. That's going to be volume of large cone minus volume of small cone minus volume of small cone. So that's 2 over 3 pi r square h minus 1 over 12 pi r square h. Multiply this by 4 because we're subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. 8 pi r square h over 12 minus pi r square h over 12. So that's 7 pi r square h over 12. That is the volume of the frustum. Now the question said that the volume of frustum is equal to the volume of the sphere. Four over 3 pi r cube. Radius is r, yeah. So they're equal. They want an expression for r in terms of h. So 7 over 12 pi r square h times 3 times 4 pi equals to r cube. Pi gets cancelled out. 3 ones are 3, this becomes 4. So that's 7 over 16 r square h. R goes over there. So r cubed divided by r square, and that's r. So r equals to 7h over 16. This is the expression I'm getting for r in terms of h in its simplest form. That's your answer for this. Then transformation of a trigonometric graph. So the graph for y equals to a times cos x plus b for x is greater than equal to 0 but less than equal to 360 is drawn on the grid. Find the values of a and b. For this question, to remember what your basic cos graph looks like for y equals to cos x. So if I roughly draw it, it's like this from 0 to 360. This over here is 180. Maximum value is 1, minimum value is -1. So we're transforming this now. So if you notice now, this is your value that's at the axis over here. So we have moved this 60 degrees to the right. So that means we're subtracting 60 over here, because whenever something is moving to the right, we're subtracting that means from the x value. So b is going to be -60. And then for a value, a is how your graph is stretching or like reducing in size, like if it's shrinking. Basically, a is your vertical stretching and shrinking. So over here, we are at 2.5. Over here, we're at -2.5, which means the graph has stretched by 2.5, because originally the maximum value is 1 and minimum value is -1. Now the maximum value is 2.5, minimum value is -2.5, which means we times it by 2.5. So A is 2.5 and B is -60, because everything has moved 60 degrees to the right. Even this point, this was supposed to be at 90 over here. Now it's over here, 60 degrees to the right. It's at 150. Similarly over here, this point, this is supposed to be at 270 over here. Now it's at 330. Everything has moved 60 degrees to the right. So always in this type of question, draw your original graph, compare it with the transform graph, and see what has changed. Your horizontal movement is going to be in the bracket. Vertical movement is going to be outside the bracket. So if the graph is moving to the right, that means you subtract that many units from the x value. If it's moving to the left, you add that many to the x value. If your graph is moving up, you're adding something to the function. If your graph is moving down, you're subtracting something from the function. This is basically the same as transformation of graphs, but the only difference is now it's a trigonometric graph. If you're someone who struggles with this, please check out my link above. I've already made a separate video on this. Just go through that. It's not that hard. These are actually easy questions. Just remember, it's the same as transformation of graphs. There's nothing new happening in this. Then another curve C has equation y equals to f of x. The coordinates of the minimum point of C are 4, 5. Write down the coordinates of the minimum point of the curve with the equation y equals to f of 2x. Now, whenever we're multiplying something to x, that means we'll divide the x coordinate by that. So the scale factor is going to be 1 over 2, not 2. So only x will change, y remains the same. And y equals to f of x minus 7 is that we're subtracting something from the function now. So we'll subtract it from the y value, not the x value. The function is your y value, because y equals to f of x. So y is 5. 5 minus 7, -2. Again, 4 will remain the same because we're not doing anything to the x value. Only the y value is changing. So again, do look at the transformation of graphs video. Trust me, it will help you a lot for this, and you can easily score these marks. Then kinematics. So this question has a very high chance of coming. Not like exactly this question, but the topic kinematics. Because I've noticed in the past papers that kinematics and differentiation, like they skip each year. Like one year comes one and the other year it's the other one. But I still put the differentiation question in this paper so that you can still have a look at it and make sure that in case it comes, you know how to solve it. So it says a particle moves along a straight line. The fixed point O lies on this line. The displacement of the particle from O at time t seconds where t is greater than or equal to 0 is s meters, where s is t cube plus 4t square minus 5t plus 7. So we have our equation for the displacement function. At time t seconds, the velocity of p is v meter per second, where v is greater than or equal to -5. We have to find an expression for t in terms of v. Give an expression in the form of this, where k and m are integers to be found. So we're talking about velocity. That means we have to differentiate our displacement function. even if you're confused about how to solve this, you should know how to connect displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Velocity is displacement being differentiated. Acceleration is velocity being differentiated. So if they have given the displacement function and they're talking about velocity, you differentiate your displacement function. So ds by dt, that's going to be 3t squared plus 8t minus 5. So 3t squared plus 8t minus 5 is our velocity. Let's write that. Now the question said at time t seconds, the velocity of p is v meter per second, where v is greater than or equal to -5. So capital V is equal to 3t squared plus 8t minus 5. They want to find an expression for t in terms of v. So let's take v to the other side because they want it in terms of v. So 3t squared plus 8t minus 5 minus v. Now let's factorize this quadratic equation in terms of v. So t is going to be -8 plus minus root of 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times -5 minus v over 2 times 3. Our a value is 3, b is 8, and c is -5 minus v. -8 plus minus 64 plus 12 times 5 is 60, and then plus 12v. That's 124 plus 12v over 6. Let's further simplify this. Between 124 and 12, we have 4 common. So that's 31 plus 3v over 6. Square root of 4 is 2. So that comes outside as 2. We can simplify this. -8 becomes -4. This becomes 1 because we're dividing everything by 2, and this becomes 3. Since time cannot be negative, so we take the positive value. So -8 plus root of 31 plus 3v over 3. That is your value of t in terms of v. And with that, we're done with this predicted paper. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this was going to be a long video because we are discussing everything that is the potential of coming. So if you have any questions or confusions, please leave a comment below and I'll help you out. If you understood everything, please like it, subscribe, share this video with your friends. And also I'll be uploading the video for paper 2 in the coming days as well. And as you know, the download link for this document is in the description below. So do download this and practice this. If you get stuck somewhere, feel free to reach out.